it started with Dr. Brown's book, The Gift of Imperfection. And it was this last chapter because she's talking about guideposts for living wholeheartedly. And in the last chapter, she's talking about letting go of being cool. And she says that she had this experience with her 8-year-old at the time. They went to a store and then they would usually dance in their house, 4 of them, herself, her husband, her children. And then they got to the store. And I think this song that they love came on and our 8-year-old was like digging it in the store. And she said she saw all the other moms looking at her 8-year-old like, okay, whose child is this? And she almost told her to stop dancing. But in that moment, she was like, that would have been her betraying herself.
Yeah.
And so she joined her and they danced, like that full body movement. And then she was giving that example to further reinforce rather, that dance requires like your full body vulnerability. There's like some authentic, like you can't fake it. When you are dancing, it's like there's no hold back. It's like you don't hold back. Dance requires that you let go. You don't even care how like you look while you're moving your body or while you're shaking your head. It just requires like, that's why most people don't dance in public. Right? Most people like betray themselves, their authenticity in public because they're like, I want to be cool. I don't want people to think I don't know, whatever adjective, but I just want to like compose myself and just not shame my friends and my family.
But does that also go for people who don't know how to dance?
If you don't know how to dance, I think but everybody can move their bodies. It's not even about, so this is not about knowing how to dance. I think it's just that general sense of just moving your body.
Letting yourself
go. That's like just letting yourself go. However you choose to sway your body is like you are just moving, right? It's not about, I know how to dance, or I know how to do like great leg work or any of that stuff. It's just to move. And it really changed. Yeah, I used to enjoy dancing in public. I didn't really care. But after reading it, I was like, okay. So dancing is part of like wholehearted living. And if I don't dance when I want to dance, it's as though I'm betraying like myself.
You're not living on your own terms.
Yeah, so I'm not living on my own terms. It's now like people now determine how I behave or act. Yeah.
But this is beyond dancing.
Yeah, obviously. That's what I was about to say. It's beyond dancing.
Yeah. So it's beyond dancing. Dancing is a symptom of a larger problem going on in the background where you're thinking, what would people say? I think that's the easiest thing. What would people say? So I think that's what sparked this whole conversation about the most important freedom that you can have. Yeah, the most important freedom that you can ever have. When you ask people questions about what makes life fun for them, what's the best version of their lives, or what are the top 3 things that are most important to you, of course you would hear varied answers. Some people would say money, some people would say, oh, I want to go to Harvard and have this degree, that kind of thing. Some people would say never to pay rent again.
Some people just want to go to Seoul.
Some people being So that's you hear these different things, but I don't know if you would ever hear people that just want to be free of other people's opinion. People who just want the freedom to be themselves. Really. Many people think that the grass is greener on the other side.
Exactly.
So they don't look at their lives as satisfying. They look at it almost like this modular thing that you bring. So there's this new car that Xiaomi launched, and they made it so modular that you could add things on it. So you could add a tablet here, you could add this device here that measures something else. So they feel like their life is unfinished, and so you have to add these other things to actually get to make it whole. Instead of actually thinking about the internals. What are the internals that actually make me whole? And then working from there to say, okay, based on this, I'm now going to be satisfied by actually experiencing these other things. So it's almost like we've changed the in and out. So money is an integral part instead of being a tool. So people around are connections and network. I feel like it's the LinkedIn effect where you don't see people as people anymore.
You see them as stepping stones.
Stepping stones to something that you believe will contribute to your wholeness. So is this different things? And when you think like that, things like dancing are a luxury.
Yeah.
Things like just enjoying life for what life really is a luxury. So that's how I'm thinking about this whole what's the most important freedom. And not to drag anybody along, I think the answer is obvious. I think the most important freedom that you can have is the freedom to actually live life on your own terms. But to live life on your own terms, there are certain things that you must satisfy, which is, who are you first of all? The identity question. So who are you first of all? And maybe I should bounce it back to you. When we're answering the question, who are you? What do you think is the best way we can answer that question?
Interesting question. Who am I? What's the best way we can answer?
Yes. What do you think is the best way we can answer that question?
So as a believer, there's that sense of you know who you are within the context of like who God has made you to be, your purpose. But then aside that, in even responding to the question, I don't know if there's like one straightforward response.
Because you've already even given me an answer. You said as a believer, you are a believer.
I'm a believer, yes. So I can't know myself outside of like the context of who God has made me to be. But there's also the part where you have to really be a good student of yourself.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like they say.
Definitely.
Where it's like, okay, how am I really wired? Like when this happens, what's like my response? What are my values based on observation and patterns?
Yes.
Not based on I read these values on social media and it's like, oh, this is a great value. I think that's my value. Like
the modular framework.
Yes, yeah, you can't just pick it and just add it. You just have to really observe yourself because there's a way you're wired, there's a way you're designed. And I think all of this comes together to make up who you are.
Yeah.
Right? Even though like who you are is not static, it's like dynamic.
It evolves. Definitely.
It evolves.
Right?
So
but I would like to use very easy analogies to help people understand this thing. So when you say you evolve, first of all, let's say you're using an iPhone, right? And in using the iPhone, there's the OS, the operating system, the base operating system. And in the operating system, there are certain apps that work. When you go into your storage, you would see the iOS, and then you would see many other apps there. Without the iOS, without that base operating system, every other thing cannot function. Like you can have every other app there, but if you find a way, the phone will not let you delete it. But if you find a way to delete the iOS, that base operating system, this phone will be bricked. It's useless to you. Do you understand what I am saying? And so let's juxtapose that with a human being. All right. Even as you are supposed to evolve, if you have not even understood the base layer, your base operating system, there's already a problem. Because what are you evolving from? What are you evolving to? That's how you now have very confused people who are subject to the lies and the whims of every guru that arises, every influencer that wakes up and has 1 million followers, and anybody with a microphone that sits in front of the camera and says, "Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel." So it's a problem when you have not really understood who you are. And if I'm to pick on what you said, first of all, you said, I am a believer. So let's use you as an example. You are a believer. You are a girl. Okay. Then we now start going into the characteristics. What kind of person are you? Oh, I'm a detail-oriented person. I am a reader. I love to read books. I'm a learner. So because you love to read books, it tells me that, oh, you are a learner. You're somebody who loves to read, right? Okay, I'm a very introspective person, but I try as much as possible to be friendly as well. Okay, that's good. But the fact that you know these things about yourself also tells me that you are an aware person. Notice that none of these things have to do with things. They have to do with your being.
Yeah.
So at the very base layer, I started uncovering and unpacking many of these tiny details.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to go into some other private things. Yes. But if each individual is able to understand themselves from these very tiny places, what kind of people do you like to be around? Normally, what kind of people do you find yourself gravitating towards? Like ab initio of your life, what kind of people do you like? What kinds of people spark your energy so much that you could spend 3 hours and not be tired with them? Just noticing the flow of your energy also tells you the kind of person. For example, I can't deal with shallow conversations. I find myself getting tired when I'm having shallow conversations with people, even if it's for a very short time. But when I am having conversations that flow into each other and they are quite intricate, I'm actually getting to learn something from this person, and we're just passing the baton back and forth. I could be there for 3-4 hours and I'm not tired. It just feels like I'm getting recharged.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. And so it's those kinds of things that just observation. And we've moved from the premise of how that Brené Brown was talking about dancing with her child in the mall. Do you get? And this was something that she had cultivated, which means it's something that she likes and her daughter likes.
They do it privately.
They do it privately at home and stuff. But then this private thing has become part of their identity, right? And so they heard a song that they both like. But of course, because this little girl has not been tainted yet by the what will people say in the world, she dances like no man's business. Brené Brown was much aware to catch herself from falling into that normal slum of what would people think or what would people say? Oh, people are watching. She was able to catch herself, right? Observe the situation immediately and then immediately join her daughter in the dancing.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that awareness is a difficult thing for people?
Okay, I think that's the right question. Do I think awareness is a difficult thing? I do know that not everybody takes steps back to observe their own lives and how they are living, right? Most people don't, because awareness cannot just happen to you. You can't just stumble on awareness.
No.
It takes a great degree of intentionality. DDK will say, is like getting a PhD in yourself.
Yeah.
Because there's a rigor to it. There's an intentionality. There's a level of stillness. There's a level of, calm.
Yeah.
You need to sit and really probe things.
Yeah.
You must be interested in examining and investigating your own actions, your own thoughts, your own behaviors. Like, why? Why did I do that? Because I was here like some weeks back where I noticed a particular behavior that I felt was betraying who I was, like my authenticity. And I was asking myself questions. I asked myself questions like 2 days after. I just kept probing. I'm like, why did I do that? Normal me, like Osham, will not be afraid to run and just, be joyful. But why did I hold myself back? It bothered me so much. But that's because there's even some level of like awareness, right? So you have to be intentional to just step back, and it's a practice.
Yes.
It's a discipline.
Yeah.
To say, okay, going forward, I'm going to sit down and ask myself questions, introspect, reflect, so that I can grow my sense of awareness. I think there are books that could help, but mostly journaling, like I would say. And DDK has said it many times. Like, you have to journal, you have to reflect, you have to ask yourself questions. And it's difficult.
Do you think the term journaling, it just popped in my head now, but do you think that the term journaling is what actually causes many of the complications and complicated thoughts that people have about journaling?
I don't know. I haven't thought about it
So
that
let me
way.
tell you how it poured out in my head now when you were talking about journaling, because you started from the place of rigor and getting a PhD in yourself. And when we went to school, nursery, primary, secondary, and so on, when you are in class, you take notes. And so I don't think that just using the blanket term journaling would actually help for things like gaining awareness and observing oneself. I think we should look at it more like you're taking notes in a class about yourself. And so you're observing how do I act in certain circumstances? What are the feelings, the most prominent feelings in my life? Do you understand? And so you're just checking. How am I likely to act in this situation? Oh, how did I react to this?
And I think there are questions that could help.
Oh, yes, definitely.
To grow, like a person's sense of awareness of themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, there are questions. If you just Google, I'm sure that you'll find like a truckload of questions to help you just even get started, because I think it's so important. Some people don't know that they are bleeding on other people because they've not sat long enough with themselves to question like their actions and why they react to certain things because if you keep reacting to the same thing in the same way, at some point you have to sit down now and ask yourself, like, why is it that when someone says this, it's almost like a clockwork, I always respond in this way. Why do I always get angry? And you have to know. Like, you have to know so that you don't bleed on other people, bleed on your children, barking at them when you are just supposed to sit and just ask yourself questions and just start to reverse engineer that process. Okay, what can I do to not react in that way again? Yeah. But is this whole conversation part of like an authenticity curriculum in a sense?
I think so. Yes. Yes, because it is. I think that's the most basic part of building authenticity.
Conservative.
Yes. But all that we have been discussing is more on the being side, not yet on the doing side. But ultimately, your being will affect your doing.
Sponsors your doing.
Many times, your being will even move concurrently with the doing. They move side by side. It's not everything in your life that would wait for you to fully be before you now start doing. Some immediately you be, you do. Is immediate. I don't know why no example comes to mind right now, but yes.
It's like mutually reinforcing in that sense.
Yeah.
Where it's like you be, you do.
You be, you
and
do.
As you do.
And as you do, you be more.
You be more. Yeah. So it's like that. But then it should ultimately flow from
an abundance of who you are, the being, because you can easily be tricked into thinking that you be because you've been doing a lot. Do you understand? Because you've been doing a lot. Practical example is the kind of work that you do. Because many people are doing things that they do not necessarily like to make money. So they're doing whatever it is. And I'm not even talking about illegitimate work.
Yes.
I'm talking about, real 9 to 5 work. Okay. Some people, because they are smart people and they're able to pick up a particular skill, they're doing a certain work, whatever it is, maybe it's being a virtual assistant. They're doing that work even though they don't like it. Yes. I don't know why you're looking at me like that, but it's true.
To use virtual assistant. That's like the most popular.
That's the easiest one comes about. But because there's money there are courses there where people are learning how to become a virtual assistant and be earning, raking in tens of thousands of dollars every month. And so they're doing virtual assistant work because it's easy for them to pick up those skills. They don't really like it, okay? They don't really like organizing another person's life. All right, they would probably be better off as creatives doing amazing work. But no, they're sitting there doing this thing. And so because they've been organizing this other person's life for a long time, they now think that they are really organized people until they are now left alone with themselves. Maybe they lose that job or those clients and they are now left with themselves. Then the real self will now show up. So previously you were on a hamster wheel where I do this, I'm racking up the hours and I get paid and all that kind of thing. But then you now lose the job. You are now left alone with yourself where nobody is paying you to do this thing. Are you an organized person? Do you think structurally? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that's an example of how a person can be tricked by thinking that you have started to be. That's an example. However,
because doing can it can be really deceitful. Because as I think about it, I'm remembering, I don't know if it's like Matthew 6 now, when Jesus was saying that don't do good works to be seen by men, but do it to give glory to your Father in heaven. He was saying two different things. Two people can be doing things, but then there's
motive behind.
What's the motive?
Where is it flowing from?
Where is it flowing from? Right? Which is like a being conversation.
Yes.
There's a person who wants to please God. And so they do good works.
Yeah.
They give generously. They do philanthropy. They do all. Then there's the other person who wants to be seen and wants to receive applause and has an agenda because they have this goal. They're like, if I do this, if they capture it here and I'm going to go for this, then it's most likely going to work.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. That's not from a true being place. No. Right? It's just from, it's like performative.
Yes.
In that sense, which was what Jesus was warning us against, right? So yeah, doing can be very, the person will do, I think they are generous.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But they don't have generous souls.
No.
So it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
And it would show. It would really show.
Yeah.
At your most unlikely moments, you would be revealed to yourself. You won't realize it early until you are caught off guard. And then if you have some tiny ember of awareness, you would finally realize that, oh, okay, I'm not that person after all. But there are times when doing actually becomes you. It feeds you. Things that you can rehearse, maybe playing the drum, playing an instrument, really.
Being consistent with Bible study.
Yes, speaking and those kinds of things. So you do
writing.
And yes, and then you become writing and learning more about writing. Yes. So just like that, those things actually help. So I just had to say that so that we don't think that we're saying, oh, there's only one way and that everything falls into one particular mode. It's then another level of awareness for you to realize what things that allow the progression of being to doing and what things actually allow the progression of doing into being.
But even like the doing that flows back into being starts from a being conversation, right? Don't you think so?
I think so.
Starts from a being conversation.
Yes.
Where it's like, okay, I want to become a writer. So I write. The more I write, the more I be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
So
for a person who wants to be consistent with like reading the word, for instance, is a being conversation. First, a desire.
First, you know where you are.
Like I want to study God's word. I want to know God more. So therefore, I would wake up every morning. I would pray. I would study the word, and then the more I do that, I'm reinforcing like first an identity conversation. Like, and I hear James Clear and all these like people who talk about habits say this a lot, where it's like, if you want to build an habit, you start from an identity conversation first. Like, who do I want to be? And then that flows into like, what habits would help me be this kind of person. But it's first like an internal conversation. I want to be a person who does things. Like ideas flow into my mind. I want to do them. So therefore, what habits would power this identity? in that sense.
So it's funny because the essay I told you I was writing about this whole agape chesed conversation, as I kept going and going and going, I even found out that, okay, before we can even have a conversation about love, you have to start from the place of identity.
Identity, being conversations are really like, if you want
they are core to every in
because
building.
we're human beings.
Yes, you're a human being.
We're
And
not
building the framework, right? Building the entire framework. It just had to start from the place of identity. You can't escape it. And so it's sad because, so let me give you a personal example. I remember when I watched movies like Suits, I watched Blacklist, I watched a bit of Mad Men, and I could tell you that I noticed a bit of Harvey Specter. I borrowed some mannerisms. This was years ago when I first watched it, but I borrowed some mannerisms. I borrowed some mannerisms from Raymond Reddington in Blacklist, and I caught myself. It's so easy for you to take on these things without knowing.
Yeah, there's this quote I want to read. It's by E.E. Cummings. He was saying to be nobody but yourself in a world which is doing its best night and day to make you everybody else means to fight the hardest battle which any human being can fight and never stop fighting.
Yeah.
So as you say this now, I'm like, this is actually a battle.
Yeah.
Where you have to always be in that combat to say, no, this is who I am. I'm going to stand for who I am. I'm not going to allow, external Raymond Reddingtons or Harvey Specters just, become me.
Yeah.
Right? No, that's not who I'm going to be.
Yeah.
So it's a fight.
So it's really a fight. And if we were to give maybe one thing that would help you win that fight, is what you're looking at consistently.
Yeah.
What is ever before you consistently? What are you looking at really? Because that whole thing happened because I was looking at these guys for hours.
Yeah, of course.
And so what are you looking at consistently, be it your movies, be it pictures, whatever it is, conversations, communities that you are part of, those kinds of things. Are you watching?
Your community is making you more you. Rather
Yes.
than you getting lost in a crowd.
Yes,
that sort of thing.
But I wanted to ask a question, because when you use the term, are your communities making you more you? And that whole thing about evolving that we talked about, how do I phrase this? So a person wants to become more of themselves, right? Okay. So first of all, we have said that people should observe. But as people observe, maybe they have picked up certain inefficiencies, certain mannerisms that are maybe morally bankrupt, or probably not right. Not because of what people would say, but then it is dysfunctional. That's the word. It is dysfunctional to a person's identity, to relationships that are supposed to be important, dysfunctional to their purpose and everything. So I'm now saying that what does the person measure what they are observing against to know that it is something to be built upon or something to be discarded?
That's a really good question. I don't know.
It's a very good question that you don't know.
It's really very critical. Like, based on observations, I've noticed that I'm this kind of person with like morally bankrupt attitude.
How do you even know that it is a morally bankrupt
behavior? That's I don't know. Because like the person, we're just talking about a person. Person is obviously maybe not a believer. The person obviously has not seen a model before them saying, "Oh, this is how to behave." Because I've heard stories where a person will be watching a movie and they will be like, "Oh, that was the wrong way to act."
Yes.
I thought that was the. So sometimes people learn from like movies. They'll watch a movie. They'll be like, "Oh, I didn't know that was wrong. I didn't know that manipulation was wrong." For instance, because there are people who are chronic manipulators, but they don't know.
Yeah.
They just feel like that's the way to live. So I'm just thinking, I'm like, if they don't stumble into like people or resources who would help them see like a different way to live, it might be difficult.
True.
It might be difficult. So it's just that, they will stumble into people who are living differently and then come to the realization that, oh, this is not exactly the way to live. But I don't know if there's a way to engineer that, because you have to be a person who is even like open to people who see the world differently than you.
People who see the world differently than you want.
Yeah.
People who also see the world rightly, who are able to perceive reality properly. Yeah. So in writing this article, Becoming Human, there's this craft test that I added in there. I think I'll put it in the description there when I publish it, so that you can see the entire article and then you see the craft tests down there.
Yeah.
So it just tests for, first of all, that coherence, tests for the relational value, and tests for transition. Can it be transferred? So basically all these different tests just to ensure that the worldview that you have, they are the right things to actually have. Well, it's a whole conversation.
It's a whole conversation. But then again, because your question still goes back to like, if a person doesn't stumble on that test to take, like they will just keep living their lives the way they need to.
Yes. So that's why there's a measure. See, as believers, we'll say, "Oh, it's God," but then if you read the scriptures and you don't understand context, you cannot rightly interpret His actions.
True.
Do you understand? And so I think we should have a different conversation around this.
Yeah.
Where we just break down these different things. So we owe you that conversation. We owe you that conversation.
To read one final thing, which I really love, by one of my favorite writers in the whole world, Mary Andrews. Yes,
that's. You see, I know the name.
Mary Andrews is her name. She was saying that to remind herself of her values, and this is going back to like just wanting to live authentically and just wanting to be this person who is constantly aware of like your actions, right? She said, to remind myself of my values, I imagine myself winning an award in my later years. What would I want that award to be? Who would I want to hand it to me? When it comes down to it, I truly don't care about selling the most books or getting the most critics to agree with that my writing is worth their time. I would want to win person who was most astonished by life, the lady who never stopped marveling, the girl who made others feel valuable in her presence, and the queen of enjoying the process of becoming. And she now says she wants Dolly Parton to hand her this award. What I'm basically saying is, I took that screenshot. I read it in 2024. Took the screenshots, had it in my gallery, because I'm like, this is so powerful. There was just a resonance with what she was saying, where it's like, I want to be this person who kept her joy, even in the midst of strenuous, hard situations that should have taken it out, that should have snuffed the light out of her. I want to be this person who still has a light shining going on, right? Even in face of like adversity and difficult situations. I want to be this person who is the same on the inside as she is on the outside. I don't want to be like there shouldn't be a mismatch between Osham privately and Osham in public. I want to be the person who, even in the midst of pressuring situations, I still have like, there's this grace that you're still able to give people.
You're still able to cultivate and maintain
your humanity, even in the midst of like. So when you have like all these things before you behold them, almost like this, your vision board of how your life should go. I think it helps to just like keep you in line, where you're like, I'm going outside of like what I want to be, my authentic,
or what I need to be.
What I need to be, my authentic way of being, right? So yeah.
All right, guys.
Thank you for.
I mean, you heard her mention something. She said something about vision board, and so just before you go, I want to stab you a bit.
Stab?
Yes. So if you have a vision board for the kind of things you want to have, but you don't have a vision board for the kind of person
you
that you want to become, you need to go and revisit it, go and look at it, and maybe revamp or create one.
Yeah,
All
really,
right.
that's so important.
Create one that you can be beholding and looking at. And on that note,
yeah, please read The Gift of Imperfections by Dr. Brown. The book cover is so lovely. Yeah, you should read it. Everybody should read it. I recommend. Yeah.
I remain supreme.
And I'm Osham.
See you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.